Amber said she needed space for her soul. I offered her the living room. She wanted my half of the rent instead. That's how it started on a Tuesday night in November, rain hammering our third-floor apartment windows like bullets. I was rewiring the kitchen outlet, again, because our landlord was cheaper than a gas station hot dog, and Amber was pacing around her latest painting like a caged animal. "Jake, we need to talk." She had that voice on, the one she used when she was about to drop a bomb and pretend it was a birthday present. I set down my wire strippers and looked at her. Amber Clark, 35 years old, struggling artist with paint-stained fingers and dreams bigger than her talent. We'd been married 3 years, together for 5. I used to think her chaos was charming. Now it just felt expensive. "Let me guess," I said, not looking up from the outlet. "You need money for another gallery submission fee." "This isn't about money, Jake. This is about us. About who we are as people." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Who we are as people? You're an artist who hasn't sold a painting in 8 months. I'm an electrician who pays for everything. Seems pretty clear to me." She stopped pacing. Her friends Kat, Jules, and Spence were huddled in our kitchen, pretending not to listen, but hanging on every word like it was the season finale of their favorite soap opera. "You don't understand the creative process," Amber said, her voice rising. "You don't understand what it means to have a vision, to need inspiration. I understand that inspiration doesn't pay the electric bill." "See? This is exactly what I'm talking about." She gestured wildly, nearly knocking over her easel. "You're holding me back, Jake. You're like this weight around my neck, dragging me down into your boring, practical world." I stood up slowly, dusting off my hands. "My boring, practical world is the reason you have a roof over your head and food in your stomach. I never asked you to take care of me." "You never had to ask. You just expected it." The rain kept hammering. Kat whispered something to Jules, and they both giggled. These were the people Amber surrounded herself with. Trust fund kids playing at being artists, living off their parents' money while they found themselves in Boston's art scene. "I think we should separate," Amber said finally. "I need space to grow as an artist, to explore who I really am." I looked at her for a long moment. 3 years of marriage, 5 years together, and this was how it ended? With her friends watching like it was dinner theater? "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay?" "Yeah. You want space? You've got it. I'll move out this weekend." "Wait, what?" "No, Jake, I meant..." "You meant you wanted me to pay rent on an apartment I don't live in while you find yourself?" "Sorry, sweetheart. That's not how this works." Her face went white. "But I can't afford this place by myself." "Then I guess you'll have to find a cheaper apartment. Or get a job, like adults do." Spence, the trust fund baby with the man bun and the attitude, spoke up from the kitchen. "Dude, you can't just abandon her like that. She's an artist. She needs stability to create." I turned to look at him. Spencer Whitman, whose biggest accomplishment was getting kicked out of 3 different art schools. "And you are?" "I'm her friend. I care about her emotional well-being." "Her emotional well-being," I repeated. "Right, well, here's some emotional well-being for you. Adults pay their own rent." Amber's phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it quickly, but not quickly enough. I saw the name on the screen. Ryan Dalton, the gallery owner with the fake British accent and the expensive suits. I'd met him at a few of Amber's shows, watched him hover around her like a shark smelling blood. "Who's Rye?" I asked. "Nobody," she said too quickly. "Just someone from the gallery scene." Her phone buzzed again. This time I was close enough to read the message. "Last night was wild. Next time just us?" The pieces clicked into place like a circuit diagram. The late nights at the gallery. The sudden need for space. The way she'd been pulling away from me for months. "Ah," I said. "Now I get it. This isn't about your art at all, is it?" Amber's face flushed red. "Jake, I can explain." "No need. It's actually pretty clear now." I looked around the room at her friends, all of them suddenly very interested in their phones. "How long?" "How long what?" "How long have you been sleeping with the gallery owner?" Kat gasped. Jules covered her mouth. Spence tried to look outraged on Amber's behalf, but he was a terrible actor. We're not," Amber stammered. "Right. I picked up my tools and headed for the bedroom. I'll be out by Sunday. Good luck with the rent." Jake, wait! But I was done waiting. I'd been waiting for 3 years for her to grow up, to take responsibility, to treat our marriage like something worth fighting for. Instead, she'd been planning her exit strategy with some pretentious art dealer who probably couldn't change a light bulb without calling it a luminous installation. As I packed my toolbox, I could hear them whispering in the kitchen. Amber was crying now, the kind of dramatic sobs she usually saved for when her paintings got rejected from galleries. "He's such an asshole," Kat was saying. "You're better off without him." "Totally," Jules agreed. "He never understood your art anyway. You need someone who appreciates your creativity." "Someone sophisticated," Spence added. "Someone who gets the artistic temperament." I almost laughed. Someone sophisticated. Like Ryan Dalton, who pronounced gallery like gallery and wore scarves indoors. My phone rang. Maya Lynn, Amber's old roommate from college. We'd stayed friends even after Amber and I got together, mostly because Maya was the only one of Amber's friends who had a job and paid her own bills. "Hey, Jake, I just heard. You okay?" "I'm fine. How did you already hear?" "Amber's been posting about it on social media for the last 10 minutes. Very dramatic. Lots of crying selfies." Of course she had. Amber never met a personal crisis she couldn't turn into performance art. "She's claiming you abandoned her," Maya continued. "Says you're trying to sabotage her career." "Her career," I repeated. "Right. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. She's been taking advantage of you for years." "Thanks. That actually means a lot." "You need a place to crash while you look for an apartment?" "I've got it covered, but thanks." After I hung up, I sat on the bed Amber and I had shared for 3 years and listened to the rain. Tomorrow I'd start looking for a new place. Tonight, I'd finish packing and try not to think about how completely I'd been played. From the kitchen, I could hear Amber telling her friends about her emotional journey and how she was finally free to explore her authentic self. It sounded like she was already planning her next gallery opening, probably with Ryan Dalton as the featured guest. Well, good for her. She wanted space to grow as an artist. She was about to get all the space she could handle. By Thursday, I'd found a studio apartment in Southie. Nothing fancy, but it was clean, cheap, and mine. No half-finished paintings cluttering the walls. No friends dropping by at all hours to discuss their creative blocks. And no one expecting me to fund their artistic vision. Maya helped me move. She showed up with coffee and donuts, took one look at my new place, and nodded approvingly. "It's very you," she said. "Practical, functional, adult." Is that a compliment? Coming from someone who spent 4 years living with Amber? Definitely. Maya was everything Amber wasn't. Organized, self-sufficient, and brutally honest. She worked as a software engineer, paid her own bills, and had never once asked me to fix her sink while she painted her feelings. "How's she handling the transition?" I asked, unpacking my tools. "About as well as you'd expect. She called me crying at 2 a.m. last night, asking if she could move in with me." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I don't have roommates anymore for a reason." Maya sat cross-legged on my new couch, a secondhand find that was actually comfortable. She's been posting non-stop about her journey of self-discovery. Very inspiring stuff, lots of quotes about butterflies and cocoons. And Ryan? Oh, he's been very supportive. Lots of comments about how true artists must suffer for their craft and freedom is the soul's greatest need. I snorted. Sounds like a greeting card. A very pretentious greeting card. Maya's phone buzzed. "Speak of the devil. She's asking if I know any cheap apartments." "What are you going to tell her?" "That cheap apartments are for people with jobs." We spent the afternoon setting up my new life. Maya had a talent for making spaces feel like home. She arranged my books, hung my few pictures, and somehow made my bachelor pad look less pathetic and more intentionally minimalist. "You know what you need?" she said, stepping back to admire her work. "A plant, something green and alive." I can barely keep myself alive. That's the beauty of succulents. They thrive on neglect. My phone rang. Amber. I let it go to voicemail. "She's been calling all day," I told Maya. "Probably wants me to come fix something." Or she's realized that being a free spirit doesn't pay the electric bill. The voicemail was exactly what I expected. Amber, crying, saying she was sorry, that she'd made a mistake, that she needed me to come over and help with the sink. Again. The sink that I fixed 3 times in the last 2 months? I said to Maya. The same sink that magically breaks every time she needs attention? I deleted the message without responding. By evening, Maya and I were sitting on my fire escape, sharing Chinese takeout and watching the city lights flicker on. It was peaceful in a way my life with Amber never was. No drama, no crisis, no emergency that required my immediate attention and wallet. Can I ask you something? Maya said, picking at her lo mein. What took you so long? To leave? To see what everyone else could see, that she was using you. I thought about it. I guess I wanted to believe in her, in us. I thought if I just supported her enough, she'd eventually grow up? Something like that. Jake, I lived with her for 2 years in college. She had 3 different boyfriends supporting her art back then, too. This isn't new behavior. That stung, but it also explained a lot. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would you have listened? Probably not. Love makes you stupid, and I'd been very stupid for a very long time. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Ryan Dalton. We need to talk. I showed Maya the message. She laughed. Oh, this should be good. What are you going to say? Nothing. I don't need to talk to him. Come on, aren't you curious? Maybe he wants to thank you for clearing the field. Another text. It's about Amber. She's having a difficult time adjusting. Adjusting to what? Maya asked, reading over my shoulder. Reality? I set my phone aside. Not my problem anymore. But even as I said it, I felt that familiar tug of responsibility. 3 years of marriage had trained me to drop everything whenever Amber had a crisis. The difference was, now I could see it for what it was. Manipulation. Good for you, Maya said. She made her choice. Now she gets to live with it. We finished dinner as the rain started again, the same steady drumbeat that had provided the soundtrack to my marriage's end. But instead of feeling trapped, I felt free. For the first time in years, I didn't have to worry about someone else's crisis, someone else's dreams, someone else's needs. My phone kept buzzing, more calls from Amber, more texts from Ryan, even a few messages from her friends asking me to be reasonable. I turned it off. You know what's funny? I said to Maya. I thought I'd be devastated. 3 years of marriage, 5 years together, but I just feel relieved. That's not funny, that's healthy. You've been carrying her dead weight for so long, you forgot what it felt like to breathe. She was right. I had been drowning slowly and steadily in Amber's chaos. Now I was finally coming up for air. So what's next? Maya asked. I have no idea, and that's the best part. For the first time in years, my life was my own. No one else's dreams to fund, no one else's crises to solve, no one else's needs to put before my own. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like freedom. 2 weeks into my new life, Maya dragged me to a gallery opening in the South End. Not because I wanted to go. I'd had enough of the Boston art scene to last a lifetime. But because she insisted I needed to rejoin the world of the living. It's not about the art, she said, fixing my collar like I was 5 years old. It's about proving to yourself that you can exist in the same space as your past without falling apart. I'm not going to fall apart. I know, but you need to know it too. The gallery was exactly what I expected. White walls, overpriced wine, and people in black clothes discussing the emotional resonance of paint splatters. Maya and I grabbed drinks and found a corner where we could observe without participating. That's when I saw them, Amber and Ryan, holding court near a particularly ugly sculpture that looked like someone had sneezed metal shavings onto a pedestal. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen before, expensive judging by the way it fit, and laughing at something Ryan was saying to a small crowd of admirers. Well, Maya said, following my gaze, that didn't take long. Ryan had his hand on the small of Amber's back, a possessive gesture that made my teeth clench. Not because I was jealous, but because it was so obvious. This wasn't a new relationship, this was a relationship going public. How long do you think they've been together? I asked. Longer than she admitted to you, that's for sure. As if sensing our attention, Amber looked over. Our eyes met across the room, and for a moment, her smile faltered. Then Ryan whispered something in her ear, and she laughed again, louder this time. She's putting on a show, Maya observed. Look how hard she's trying to seem happy. She was right. Amber's laugh was too bright, her gestures too animated. She was performing happiness for an audience that included me. Jake Harper. I turned to find Kat approaching, wine glass in hand and sympathy painted on her face like makeup. Oh my God, how are you? We heard about the divorce. Separation, I corrected. And I'm fine. That's so good to hear. You know, we were all really worried about you. Amber was devastated, absolutely devastated. But she's doing so much better now. She's really found herself, artistically speaking. Maya stepped closer to me, a subtle show of support that I appreciated. And who's this? Kat asked, looking Maya up and down like she was evaluating a painting. Maya Lynn. I'm Jake's friend. Oh. Kat's tone suggested that being Jake's friend was roughly equivalent to having a communicable disease. Well, it's nice that you're moving on. The implication was clear. I was rebounding with the first woman who'd have me, while Amber was on a journey of artistic self-discovery with a sophisticated gallery owner. Actually, Maya said with a smile that could cut glass, I'm the friend who's been telling Jake for years that he deserved better. Turns out I was right. Kat's face flushed. I should get back to Amber. She's having such an amazing night. As she hurried away, Maya chuckled. I like her. Very subtle. About as subtle as a brick through a window. We were interrupted by a commotion near the sculpture. Amber was gesturing wildly, her voice carrying across the room as she explained her vision to anyone who would listen. Ryan stood beside her, nodding sagely and adding commentary about raw emotional honesty and the courage to be vulnerable. She's drunk, Maya observed. She was right. Amber got philosophical when she drank, and philosophical Amber was never a good thing. I'd spent enough evenings listening to her explain why her art was misunderstood by the commercial establishment to recognize the signs. We should go, I said. No way. This is just getting interesting. As if on cue, Amber's voice rose even higher. Art isn't about what sells, she was saying. It's about truth. It's about showing the world who you really are, even when that truth is uncomfortable. Someone in the crowd murmured agreement. Ryan squeezed her shoulder encouragingly. Some people, Amber continued, her gaze drifting toward me, are threatened by that kind of honesty. They want you to play it safe, to make pretty pictures that match the sofa. They don't understand that real art requires sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Someone asked. Everything, Amber said dramatically. Your comfort, your security, your relationships. Sometimes you have to choose between being an artist and being ordinary. The word ordinary hit me like a slap. She was talking about me, about our marriage, about the choice she'd made to leave her boring, practical husband for the sophisticated gallery owner who understood her artistic soul. Wow, Maya said quietly. She's really going for it. Ryan was eating it up, nodding along like Amber was delivering the Gettysburg Address. The crowd was hanging on every word, probably thinking they were witnessing some profound artistic moment. All I could see was the woman I'd supported for 3 years, who'd never missed a chance to spend my money on art supplies and gallery submission fees, now positioning herself as a tortured artist who'd sacrificed everything for her craft. You know what? I said to Maya. You're right, this is interesting. I started walking toward them. Maya grabbed my arm. Jake, what are you doing? Just listening to the artist explain her vision. I joined the crowd around Amber, standing where she could see me. Her eyes widened slightly, but she kept talking. The hardest part, she was saying, is when people try to make you feel guilty for following your dreams. They want to trap you in their small, limited world because your freedom threatens them. That's so brave, one of the gallery patrons said. It must have been difficult. It was, Amber agreed, her voice breaking slightly. But sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. Sometimes leaving is the most loving thing you can do. I almost laughed. Leaving was the most loving thing she could do? Not the cheating, not the lying, not the 3 years of financial dependence. Leaving was her gift to me. Excuse me, I said, raising my hand like I was in school. I have a question. The crowd turned to look at me. Amber's face went pale. When you talk about sacrifice, I continued, Do you mean sacrificing other people's money? Because I'm curious about the economics of artistic integrity. Ryan stepped forward, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. I think you should leave. Why? I'm just interested in the creative process. See, I used to be married to an artist, and I always wondered how someone could talk about sacrifice while living off someone else's paycheck. Jake, Amber said quietly, please don't do this. Do what? Ask questions? I thought art was about uncomfortable truths. The crowd was shifting uncomfortably now, sensing drama but not sure what kind. Maya appeared at my elbow, ready to extract me if necessary. The truth is, I said loud enough for everyone to hear, some people's idea of artistic sacrifice is making other people pay for it. Some people think freedom means taking everything and giving nothing back. You're drunk, Ryan said, though I'd barely touched my wine. No, I'm clear-headed, probably for the first time in years. I looked directly at Amber. Enjoy your artistic journey. Just remember, someone else is paying for the gas. I turned and walked away, Maya beside me. Behind us, I could hear the murmur of confused voices and Amber's attempts to salvage the situation. That, Maya said as we reached the exit, was either the most therapeutic thing I've ever seen or the most self-destructive. Probably both. But as we walked out into the cool Boston night, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the satisfaction of standing up for myself. Amber could paint me as the villain in her artistic journey all she wanted. At least now everyone knew there were two sides to the story, and I was just getting started. The gallery incident should have been the end of it. I'd said my piece, made my point, and walked away. But Amber, it turned out, wasn't done with me yet. It started with the phone calls. Not to me, I'd blocked her number, but to my work. Tony Ricci, my foreman, pulled me aside on a job site in Cambridge. Hey Jake, what's the deal with your ex? She's been calling the office crying about some emergency. What kind of emergency? Something about the heat being shut off and needing you to fix it? She says it's life or death. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. The heat's electric baseboard. If it's not working, she needs to call an electrician. You know, like a paying customer would. That's what I figured, but she keeps calling. Says you're the only one who knows how to fix it. She's lying, Tony. The only thing broken is her ability to take responsibility for herself. But the calls kept coming. To my work, to Maya, even to my mother in Florida, who called me confused and worried. She seems very upset, honey, Mom said. She says you left her with a broken furnace and no way to fix it. Ma, I'm an electrician, not a heating contractor, and we're separated. I don't fix her stuff anymore. But if she's cold, then she can call a repair service like every other adult in Boston. I could hear the disapproval in my mother's voice. She'd always liked Amber, thought she was creative and spirited. The fact that Amber's spirit came with a price tag had never seemed to register. The real kicker came on Friday. I was rewiring a kitchen in Back Bay when Maya called, laughing so hard she could barely speak. You have to see this, she said. Amber's posted a GoFundMe. A what? A GoFundMe for emergency home repairs. She's raised almost $300. I sat down on a sawbore, suddenly exhausted. What does it say? Oh, it's a masterpiece. Lots of stuff about being a struggling artist abandoned by her cruel husband. She's painted you as some kind of monster who left her in a freezing apartment with broken appliances. The appliances aren't broken. I know that, you know that. But her donors don't know that. That evening, Maya showed me the page on her laptop. There was Amber looking tragic and beautiful in a photo I'd taken last winter, with a sob story about being left destitute by her heartless ex-husband. After my marriage ended, Maya read aloud, I was left with an apartment full of broken appliances and no way to fix them. My ex-husband was an electrician who always took care of these things. But now, I'm on my own with no heat, no hot water, and no money for repairs. Any help would be appreciated as I try to rebuild my life and continue my art. No heat, no hot water, I repeated. The hot water heater is gas. The heat is electric and controlled by thermostats. There's nothing to break. But it sounds very tragic. It's fraud. It's creative writing. I scrolled through the comments. Lots of sympathy, lots of outrage, directed at the unnamed ex-husband who'd abandoned this poor, struggling artist. A few donations from people I recognized, her art friends, some gallery patrons, even Ryan Dalton, who'd contributed $50, and a comment about supporting artists in transition. "This is unbelievable," I said. "This is Amber," Maya corrected. "She's always been good at making other people pay for her problems. Now she's just doing it online." But the GoFundMe was just the beginning. Over the next week, Amber launched a full-scale campaign to rewrite the history of our marriage. Social media posts about emotional abuse, not physical, she was too smart for that, but the insidious kind where a controlling husband slowly crushed his wife's artistic spirit. Blog posts on art websites about the challenges facing female artists whose partners don't support their work. Even a podcast interview where she talked about escaping a toxic relationship and finding the courage to choose art over security. In Amber's version of events, I wasn't a husband who'd supported her for 3 years while she played artist. I was an oppressive force who'd tried to trap her in a conventional life, who'd resented her talent and tried to sabotage her career. "She's good," Maya said, reading the latest blog post. "I'll give her that. She's managed to make herself the victim and the hero of her own story, while making me the villain. The boring, practical villain who paid her bills and fixed her sink." The worst part was watching people believe it. Amber's art friends, who'd never liked me anyway, were sharing her posts with comments about how they'd always known something was wrong, and how creative women deserve better. Even some of my own friends were starting to ask questions, wondering if there was more to the story than I'd told them. "Maybe you should set the record straight," Tony suggested over beers after work. "Tell your side of things." "And say what? That my wife cheated on me and I left? That she's been living off my paycheck for 3 years while pretending to be a starving artist? Who's going to believe that over her sob story? Anyone who knows you." But that was the problem. Most people didn't know me. They knew Amber, the beautiful, tragic artist who'd been wronged by her cruel husband. I was just the faceless villain in her story, the practical man who'd tried to crush her dreams. The breaking point came when she showed up at my apartment. I was coming home from work, tired and dirty, and looking forward to a quiet evening, when I found her sitting on my front steps. She'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged and her eyes were red. And she looked up at me with the same expression she used to get when she wanted something. "Jake," she said, standing up, "we need to talk." "No, we don't." "Please, just 5 minutes." "Amber, we're separated. You made that choice. You don't get to show up here whenever you feel like it." "I made a mistake," she said, the tears starting again. "I was confused. I was scared. Ryan, he's not what I thought he was." I almost asked what she meant, but caught myself. "Not my problem anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, pulling out my keys. "But it doesn't change anything." "It changes everything. I love you, Jake. I never stopped loving you. I was going through something and I handled it badly." "You were going through something," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling adultery now?" She flinched. "It wasn't like that." "What was it like?" It was a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake. But it's over now. Ryan and we're done. I want to come home." I looked at her standing there in her expensive dress, the one she'd been wearing at the gallery opening, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering love. Just exhaustion. "This isn't your home anymore," I said. "You made sure of that." "Jake, please." "No." I opened the door to my building. "Go home, Amber. Go back to your apartment and your art and your GoFundMe page. Go back to telling the world what a terrible husband I was. But leave me out of it." I walked inside and closed the door behind me, leaving her standing on the steps. Through the glass, I could see her crying, could hear her calling my name, but I didn't look back. Upstairs in my apartment, I made dinner and tried to ignore the sound of her voice from the street below. Eventually, it stopped. When I looked out the window an hour later, she was gone. But I knew this wasn't over. Amber didn't give up easily, especially when she wanted something. And right now, what she wanted was her old life back. The life where someone else paid the bills while she pursued her dreams. The only problem was, I wasn't that someone anymore. Maya found the video on Instagram 3 days later. You need to see this, she said, showing up at my apartment with coffee and a grim expression. And you're not going to like it. The video was shot in what looked like a coffee shop, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. Amber sat across from someone holding a phone, her eyes red-rimmed and her voice shaky as she told her story. He was so controlling, she was saying. Everything had to be his way. He made me feel like my art was worthless, like I was worthless. And when I finally found the courage to leave, he abandoned me completely. No support, no help with the apartment we shared, nothing. That's awful, said a sympathetic voice from behind the camera. How are you surviving? I'm not really. I mean, I'm trying, but it's so hard. He was an electrician, so he always took care of everything in our apartment. Now I'm dealing with broken heat, broken appliances, and I can't afford to fix any of it. I started a GoFundMe just to keep from freezing, but it's not enough. I paused the video. When was this posted? This morning. It already has 2,000 views and about 50 comments. I scrolled through the comments. More sympathy, more outrage, more donations to her cause. Someone had even shared her GoFundMe link. She's good at this, I said. She's a sociopath. No, she's just desperate. Ryan must have dumped her, and now she's stuck with rent she can't afford and bills she can't pay. So she's trying to guilt me into coming back. Is it working? I looked at Maya, sitting cross-legged on my couch with her laptop balanced on her knees. Maya, who paid her own bills and solved her own problems, and never once asked me to rescue her from the consequences of her choices. No, I said. It's not working. But Amber wasn't done. Over the next week, the campaign intensified. More videos, more blog posts, more social media updates about her struggle to survive after being abandoned by her heartless ex. She even did a live stream from her apartment, showing off the broken appliances and explaining how she couldn't afford to fix them. See this? She said, pointing her phone at the perfectly functional electric stove. The burners don't work properly, and the refrigerator makes this horrible noise that keeps me up at night. My ex-husband always fixed these things, but now... She let the sentence trail off, leaving her audience to fill in the blanks. The comments were brutal. Not toward Amber, but toward me. Strangers calling me a monster, a deadbeat, a failure as a husband. Someone even posted my work number, suggesting people call and let them know what they think of men who abandon their wives. Tony had to disconnect the office phone for 2 days. This is getting out of hand, Maya said. She's basically organizing a harassment campaign against you. What am I supposed to do about it? Fight back. Tell your side of the story. And look like what? A bitter ex-husband trying to destroy his wife's reputation? She's got the narrative locked down, Maya. Poor struggling artist versus cruel, abandoning husband. Guess who people are going to believe? But Maya was right. It was getting out of hand. The harassment wasn't just online anymore. Someone had posted my home address, and I'd started getting angry voicemails from strangers. A woman showed up at my apartment building to scream at me about deadbeat husbands who abandon their wives. Even my mother called, upset about something she'd seen on Facebook. I don't understand, Mom said. Amber posted that you left her with no heat and no money. That doesn't sound like the son I raised. It's not true, Ma. Then why would she say it? How do you explain to your 70-year-old mother that your ex-wife is a manipulative narcissist who's weaponized social media to rewrite history? How do you make people understand that the crying woman in the videos is the same person who spent 3 years treating your bank account like her personal ATM? The answer came to me on a Thursday night, sitting in my apartment and staring at Amber's latest Instagram post. She was in her kitchen, opening and closing cabinet doors to show how empty they were, talking about not being able to afford groceries since her support system disappeared. The cabinets weren't empty. I could see food in them, not much, but enough. And the kitchen itself looked exactly the same as when I'd lived there. Same appliances, same everything. Nothing broken, nothing in need of repair. I grabbed my phone and called Maya. I need a favor, I said when she answered, and you're probably going to think I'm crazy. Crazier than letting your ex-wife destroy your reputation without fighting back? Maybe. I want to make a video. What kind of video? The kind that shows people what Amber's apartment actually looks like. The kind that proves she's been lying about everything. There was a pause. Jake, that sounds like stalking. Not stalking, documentation. I still have keys to that apartment, remember? Technically, I'm still on the lease until the end of the month. That's actually not a terrible idea, but it's risky. Everything's risky at this point. She's already destroyed my reputation. What's the worst that could happen? You could get arrested for breaking and entering. It's not breaking and entering if I have keys, and I'm on the lease. Another pause. When were you thinking of doing this? Tomorrow. She posts on Instagram every day around noon from some coffee shop in the North End. That gives us a window. Us? I need someone to film while I provide commentary. Someone people will believe. And you think people will believe me? Maya, you're a software engineer with no skin in this game. You're the most credible witness I've got. She was quiet for a long moment. This is either going to save your reputation or destroy what's left of it. I'm willing to take that chance. Okay, she said finally, but we do this smart. We document everything, we don't touch anything that isn't ours, and we get out fast. Deal. The next day, we waited until Amber posted her daily update from the coffee shop, then drove to the apartment. My hands were shaking as I put the key in the lock, but the door opened smoothly. The apartment looked exactly like I remembered it. Clean, organized, and completely functional. Maya started filming as I walked through each room, pointing out the lies. This is the kitchen, I said to the camera. According to my ex-wife, the stove doesn't work and the refrigerator is broken. Let me show you what's actually going on here. I turned on each burner. They all worked perfectly. I opened the refrigerator, which was humming quietly and keeping food cold, just like refrigerators are supposed to do. And here, I said, opening the cabinets, are the empty cabinets she showed in her video yesterday. They weren't empty. Not full, but not empty either. Enough food for someone living alone and eating out frequently. We moved to the living room, where the space heater Amber had claimed was broken and dangerous, was sitting unplugged in the corner. This heater works fine, I said, plugging it in. It hummed to life immediately. The reason it's not being used is because this apartment has perfectly functional baseboard heat controlled by this thermostat. I adjusted the thermostat. Within minutes, the baseboard heaters started clicking and warming up. The heat works, I said to Maya's camera. The appliances work. The hot water works. Everything in this apartment works exactly the way it's supposed to. The only thing that's broken here is the truth. We were in and out in 15 minutes. Maya uploaded the video to YouTube that afternoon, and I shared it on every social media platform I had. The response was immediate and brutal. But this time, the anger wasn't directed at me. Within hours, Amber's GoFundMe page was flooded with angry comments from people demanding their money back. Her Instagram and Facebook were bombarded with accusations of fraud. The video I'd made was shared hundreds of times, each share accompanied by outraged commentary about people who fake emergencies for money. Amber tried to fight back, posting a tearful video claiming I'd broken into her apartment and violated her privacy. But it was too late. The narrative had shifted, and now she was the villain. Holy shit, Maya said, calling me that evening. Have you seen her GoFundMe page? No, why? It's gone, completely gone, and her Instagram is private now. I felt a surge of satisfaction, followed immediately by something that might have been guilt. Amber was a manipulator and a liar, but seeing her world collapse in real time was still hard to watch. You did the right thing, Maya said, reading my mind. She brought this on herself. I know. Do you, though? Because you sound like you feel bad about it. I thought about that. Did I feel bad? Amber had lied about me, harassed me, tried to destroy my reputation and turn my friends and family against me. She'd weaponized her tears and her story to manipulate strangers into giving her money for problems that didn't exist. No, I said finally. I don't feel bad. I feel like I finally fought back. Good, because this isn't over yet. She was right. Amber wasn't the type to go quietly, and Ryan Dalton was still in the picture somewhere. But for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt like I had the upper hand, and I intended to keep it. The confrontation came on a Saturday night, 3 weeks after my video went viral. I was at Sullivan's Pub in Southie with Maya and some friends from work, celebrating Tony's birthday when they walked in. Amber and Ryan, both clearly drunk, both clearly looking for trouble. There he is, Amber announced loudly, pointing at me from across the bar. The man who destroyed my life. The pub went quiet. Sullivan's wasn't the kind of place where people cause scenes. It was a neighborhood bar where everyone knew everyone, and drama was handled quickly and quietly. Amber, I said, not getting up from my stool, you should go home. Home? She laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. What home? I got evicted, thanks to you. Lost my apartment, lost my reputation, lost everything. Ryan put his hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her down, but she shrugged him off. Don't touch me, she snapped. This is all your fault, too. You promised me things would be different, that you'd take care of me. But the minute things got hard, you disappeared. So that's what had happened. Ryan had dumped her when the scandal broke, probably worried about how it would affect his precious gallery's reputation. Jake, Maya said quietly, we should leave. No. I stood up, tired of running, tired of being the villain in other people's stories. I'm not leaving. I was here first. Amber stumbled toward me, Ryan trailing behind her like a reluctant bodyguard. The other patrons were watching now, phones out, probably hoping for something worth posting online. You ruined everything, Amber said, getting in my face. I loved you. I made one mistake and you destroyed my entire life over it. One mistake? I laughed. Amber, you cheated on me for months. You lied to me, used me, then tried to make me the villain when I finally stood up for myself. I never cheated. There are text messages. There are photos. There's a paper trail of your one mistake, going back 6 months. Her face flushed red. You went through my phone? I didn't have to. You left it sitting on the counter, buzzing with messages from your boyfriend. Ryan stepped forward, puffing out his chest like he was about to defend Amber's honor. You had no right. I had every right, I cut him off. I was her husband, remember? The guy who paid her bills while she was playing house with you? She's an artist, Ryan said, like that explained everything. She needed support, encouragement. She needed a job, I shot back. She needed to grow up and take responsibility for herself, instead of bouncing from one sugar daddy to the next. That hit home. Ryan's face went pale, and Amber made a sound like I'd slapped her. You bastard, she whispered. You absolute bastard. Yeah, I'm a bastard. I'm the bastard who supported you for 3 years while you pretended to be a struggling artist. I'm the bastard who fixed your sink and paid your rent and listened to you complain about how the world didn't appreciate your talent. And I'm the bastard who finally got tired of being used. The pub was dead silent now. Even the bartender had stopped wiping glasses to listen. You want to know what your mistake was, Amber? It wasn't cheating on me. It was thinking I was too stupid to figure it out. It was thinking I'd keep paying for your life while you built a new one with someone else. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I wasn't done. And you, I said, turning to Ryan, you want to play the sophisticated art patron? The guy who understands her creative soul? Then pay for it. Take care of her rent, her bills, her broken appliances that aren't actually broken. Put your money where your mouth is. Ryan looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. This is between you and her. No, this is between all of us. You wanted her, you got her. Congratulations. Hope you enjoy supporting her art as much as I did. Jake, Maya said, standing up, that's enough. But Amber wasn't done. You think you're so smart, she said, her voice breaking. You think you won. But you're going to die alone, Jake. You're going to die a bitter, lonely man who is too selfish to support the woman he claimed to love. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll die honest. That broke something in her. She lunged at me, nails out, screaming obscenities. I caught her wrist before she could do any damage, but the movement sent her stumbling backward into Ryan, who tried to catch her and ended up falling himself. They went down in a tangle of limbs and expensive clothes, Amber still screaming, Ryan cursing as his designer shirt tore on the edge of a bar stool. The whole pub erupted in laughter. All right, that's enough, the bartender said, coming around the bar. You two need to leave. Now. This isn't over, Amber said as Ryan helped her to her feet. This isn't over, Jake. Yeah, it is, I said. It's been over for a long time. You just didn't want to admit it. They left, Amber still crying, Ryan limping slightly and trying to hold his torn shirt together. The pub gradually returned to normal. Conversations resuming, phones being put away. Well, Maya said, sitting back down, that was entertaining. Was it? Jake, she just proved everything you said about her in front of a room full of witnesses, half of whom were recording. By tomorrow, this is going to be all over social media, and not in a way that makes her look good. She was right. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. Textings from friends who'd seen the confrontation, social media tags from people who'd been at the bar. But instead of the angry messages I'd gotten used to, these were supportive. People congratulating me for standing up to my crazy ex. People sharing their own stories about manipulative partners. How do you feel? Maya asked. I thought about it. How did I feel? Not angry anymore. That had burned out months ago. Not sad, not guilty, not responsible for Amber's choices or their consequences. Free, I said finally. I feel free. And I was. Free from Amber's drama, free from her lies, free from the obligation to fix her problems and fund her dreams. Free to build my own life with people who actually cared about me, not just what I could do for them. Maya raised her beer. To freedom! To freedom, I agreed, clinking my bottle against hers. Outside Boston glittered in the autumn night, full of possibilities I'd forgotten existed. Amber and Ryan were somewhere out there, probably fighting about whose fault tonight had been, probably planning their next move in whatever drama they'd create for themselves. But that was their story now. I was done being a character in it. I had my own story to write.